Welcome to During today's hour, we will be discussing the topic of DNA and general DNA profiling.
So today's daily question is, what is gel electrophoresis?
Remember to answer the question on either our Twitter, our Facebook, or to call us in order to stay interactive with us today. Going to take a phone call. What's your name?
Mirfan.
Hi, Mirfan. Do you mind please lowering the volume on the radio?
Okay, 1 second. يا محمد وطي صوت شوية بتاع الراديو.
Okay, so back to our question. What do you think gel electrophoresis is?
It is the process of replicating DNA.
Well, Mervat, unfortunately, your answer is incorrect. However, you're on the right track. It has to do something with DNA.
Thank you for calling. We decided to check our Twitter and we've actually received the correct answer on Twitter. The answer is gel electrophoresis is a method used to separate DNA, RNA, or proteins according to their size. Thank you to Abeer for the contribution. During the process, DNA is pushed by an electric field through a gel called agarose. And a small and lighter DNA sample travels farther and faster, while longer ones stay closer to the origin of the box of the gel. As we all know, DNA has a negative charge, therefore it will go towards the positive end of the well. The steps to this process are very simple. You put a small amount of agarose into the flask, and then you add liquid buffer to it, and then you place a plastic wrap over the top of the flask. You heat the mixture in the microwave until the agarose melts into the buffer. You pour the mixture into the mold. You place the comb into the gel on one end, and you have to leave it for half an hour to cool and become solid.
So after you leave it for half an hour, then remove the comb. Set up the gel electrophoresis chamber, then pour the buffer into the chamber. Place the agarose gel into the gel chamber, add the buffer to the DNA sample using the micropipette, then add the DNA samples into the wells that are already been created by the comb, and then add the DNA size standard into the next empty well so that you'll be able to compare it when you do the DNA analysis. And don't forget to turn on the power supply on the electricity box. And then using the Ethereum bromide you need to use to stain the gel, which lasts for half an hour. Then you remove the gel from the staining solution and place it on the UV light box. After that, add the fluorescent markers to make the DNA visible, so then you can be able to analyze the results, which is known as the DNA profiling. So now we're done with explaining what gel electrophoresis is and the steps. Now Jeena will be explaining short tandem repeats.
In order to understand what short tandem repeats are, you must first know that they are also known as STRs, in case you ever hear someone refer to them as STRs. So the human genome is full of repeated DNA sequences, and these repeated sequences come in various sizes and are classified according to the length of the core of the repeat units, the number of continuous repeats, and the overall length of the repeated region. So DNA regions with short repeat units are called short tandem repeats. Basically, every person has a different set of short tandem repeats, and it is a basic part of our DNA. It is found in all of our cells. That's it. Discussing how PCR relates to STR. So also, like I mentioned earlier, in order to understand how PCR relates to STRs, you must first understand what PCRs are. PCR, also known as polymerase chain reaction, is a process developed by Carey Mullis in the 1980s. And it's basically a method of making multiple DNA copies of a DNA sample. So it's basically amplifying the DNA sample so that you can have enough DNA cells to do enough testing on the sample that you have. So now that we know what PCR is, we can apply this information to understand that when a DNA sample is found at the crime scene, it is placed under a PCR process to make enough copies to place the sample into the electrophoresis gel in order to see the short tandem repeat. So to recap everything I just said, short tandem repeats are found in every person. They are different from person to person, and in order to be able to see these short tandem repeats, you must put the DNA sample under the process of PCR, which basically amplifies the DNA sample so that you can have enough to test on the DNA. By amplify, I mean makes larger copies.
It makes more copies.
In this picture, you can see that on the left side, the DNA found at the crime scene matches the DNA of the suspect. However, on the right side, the purple one, you can see that the crime scene DNA does not match the suspect. As for this picture, you can see that although the three men share a similar part of their DNA, they do not share the same exact DNA, as one man has 5 repeats, the other has 6, and the third has 7. Finally, when you look at this picture, you can see that the different repeats and different codes give people different physical traits.
We're gonna break now, and after the break, I'll be explaining what CODIS is, and stay tuned to our surprise at the end.
Welcome back from our break. This is we are now going to be discussing code. It's such an exciting topic, don't you think so, Nada?
Definitely. Okay, so what is CODIS? It is combined DNA index system. And the purpose of CODIS is to convict criminals based on the STRs, which you already explained before the break.
Yeah.
Not only that, but they try to investigate in specific crime scenes based on the biological evidences they find.
Indeed.
Well, when was it created, or how, or what happened, and what were they thinking of? When I refer back to they, I mean the FBI. They're the one who created it, so they had the pilot software created in 1990, but then the DNA Identification Act in 1994 gave the FBI the complete authority to have the NDIS, which is the National DNA Index System, which they have almost all the database that have to do with all the DNA they have present. And so basically, it was official in 1994, not in 1990. They only created the software in 1990. So what's the function of CODIS? Do you have any ideas?
I think the function of CODIS is to basically catch criminals in a faster way. I guess that's a general idea, but you're the expert on this topic. Could you elaborate more so that our audience understands?
Well, to say the truth, you're on the right track. We definitely use CODIS to convict criminals, or in some cases even to show how some people are convicted wrongfully. But essentially, it is like a matching system. So they have this DNA they found in a crime scene, and they have the DNA profiling. But then when they have certain suspects, but the DNA profiling of those suspects and the trace evidence, they don't match. So what do? In some cold cases, they refer back to the CODIS, which is like a matching system. So they have the STR and the 13. So in the STR, all the DNA database found in the CODIS is based on the STRs, which are only on the 13 locations, okay? And they try to match it up. So essentially, they compare the DNA they have with the DNA found in the system. Not only that, but as you said, they try to link suspects, or they link criminals to certain crimes. So ultimately, the purpose of CODIS is to find who's the criminal. Not only that, but it helps with the rapid DNA analysis. If you have the DNA profiling and you want to match it up, then you can definitely use CODIS. But be aware that the FBI are the only ones who have authority or control over it. So you need to get permission first. So for instance, some organizations like the Innocence Project, where their main aim is to help people who are convicted wrongfully, they might get permission in some cases, but they don't have a complete authority like FBI.
Yeah.
And then also in some cases they use it to determine family relationships, in terms of they can find who's the father, mother.
Paternity testing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not only that, but lastly, it could be used to find a missing person, which could be helpful if they have no other resorts. Then they could refer back to CODIS. So because it's a very powerful tool that they have. But be aware that I think it's only present in the US. Now, after all those amazing functions and purposes of CODIS, so how successful is CODIS? Did it help the Americans? Did it help find criminals? Or was it just a waste of time, resources, and money? The only way to measure such success is to find the probability, not necessarily probability, but how many people were convicted, how many people were arrested. So I'll just give you some numbers, and I think they are astonishing, that will tell you whether or not CODIS was successful. 12,205,768 offenders and 2,258,693 arrestees. It helped in more than 309,614 investigations.
I'm receiving a phone call from the control room. Yes, hello, hi.
Hello?
What's your name?
Hey.
Hi, Fathiya. What's your question for today? How can we help you?
I'm doing a research paper for my applied science and technology class. I just wanted to ask what might be some risks of CODIS.
It is an amazing question to ask. And there are certainly a lot of risks. starting off with it is debatable whether CODIS ignores one's privacy. They claim that in some cases they might use the information that CODIS provides them to do genetic
Yeah, it's an
discrimination.
invasion of privacy. I don't want anyone to have access to my DNA, you know? I don't understand the concept.
Well, I would tend to disagree with your opinion because, as already stated in the previous statistics, it really did help to convict criminals. But I'll just say the risks. First of all, leading back to the privacy issue, is that they might do genetic discrimination based on the information that CODIS provides them with. Not only that, but as studied, you should have studied in applied science and technology that in some cases criminals plant fake DNA and they convict people, wrongfully convict people based on this fake DNA. Is then put in CODIS and registered as someone who a criminal, and then they might later on use the same, relate the suspect who was wrongfully convicted, link him to another crime scene.
That's true.
Yeah, because they found the same DNA in both scenarios, when in fact he might have not, or she might have not been related.
Yeah.
Not only that, but it is said that perhaps when they find this DNA, they might use the evidence of DNA or the DNA profiling to hide other very important information. Okay, so the DNA analysis found in CODIS is based on the STRs, and as shown in this image, those are the 13 locations in which the DNA is compared. Those are the only locations that are available in CODIS and compared to, according to the results found in CODIS are compared in terms of STRs, not the DNA banks.
As we promised you a surprise, here is our surprise guest. This is an exoneree from the Innocence Project who has offered to come and share his precious time with us to discuss his case and everything that happened with it. So this is Mr. Gregory Wallace. Hi, Mr. Gregory, how are you?
Hello. Please introduce yourselves, your name, your story.
My name is Gregory Wallace, and my crime was sexual assault. Crime happened on January 6th, 1988 in Abeer, Texas, where a man went to a woman's house, talked for a few minutes on the door, and then she let him inside her house, and he raped her for 2 consecutive hours.
Of course, when she reported the descriptions of the man that she remembered, which were that he was white, he had a scar on his face, and he had a tattoo of a woman.
5 months later,
a police officer at the station knew me, so he knew the descriptions, and the descriptions were very close to me.
Since I have a scar on
And the tattoo.
and
On
yeah,
your forehead and your body too, right?
yeah, and I have a tattoo and I'm white, so that's why I was linked to the crime.
You said 5 months after?
Yeah, 5 months. And I was convicted in 1989, sorry, and I was sentenced to 50 years of prison.
50 years?
Oh.
Yeah, for something that I did not do. I was at my house with my wife, and she testified in the court that I was with her at the time of this crime.
But of course they thought it was a fake.
Of course, because I mean, she's my wife. She
Yeah.
wouldn't want me to go to prison for 50 years. I spent 17 years.
17?
Actually 18.
18 years.
And when I left, I had a son who was not able to bond with him after I came back, because of course it's been 18 years.
I read in one of the articles that you were about to get released in 2005, but that did not actually succeed. Like, I heard there was several DNA testing. Can you please explain the process of Mr. Michael Moore? Yeah.
He is one of Dallas's county public defenders, and he asked for DNA profiling to be done. 1 in every 452 people have the same portion of the DNA.
Only one of the locations, not the entire genome, because there are like 1 in a billion have it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
just
only
a
one portion. Okay.
Yeah. The guy that raped a woman had the same portion as I did, so they offered me to be released. However, they wanted me to be recorded as a sex offender for life. I refused, since
You wanted to prove your innocence.
exactly.
At the end of the day, you're not guilty.
Yeah. Then I asked make like another DNA profiling based
But-
on the cigarette butts.
And the
And the
rate.
rate kit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was sent to Orchid Cell Mort. They found that it's not the same as the DNA found on the crime scene. And I was released January 10th, 2007. On the judge who sentenced me years
which is he was called Manny Alvarez, and he apologized, of course.
How do you feel about it now?
Well, he was kind of doing his job, but of course it makes me feel bad that I had to spend 18 of my years of my life and lost technically everything, the most important thing in my life, which is my son, due to a mistake.
I have a question to the audience. You were put in the same position and the judge later on after you were exonerated came and apologized to you. Would you accept the apology? How would you feel about it? Let us know. Tweet us, call us.
Did they give you any compensation? What was your profession before you got imprisoned? Not only that, but how is your life now?
Yeah, they did offer me a compensation. It was $1,600,000 after I was released. I used to work as a warehouse worker. Life now is not as good.
Forensic science is extremely beneficial, as in case of Mr. Wallace, it led to his own exoneration. DNA analysis and profiling of the cigarette butts and the rape kit helped Mr. Wallace to be exonerated. They proved that the DNA analysis of the rape kit and the cigarette butts do not match Mr. Wallace's DNA, which is why he was later released from prison in the year 2007.
Forensic scientists need to take care when convicting a specific suspect because it could ruin their life. Thank you guys for watching and for listening. Have a nice night and remember to drive safely.